Welcome to Anecdotes for Success with Matt and Paul. Storytelling is an art form, emphasizing the value and learning that is created through personal experience. Our purpose is to share these stories and experiences with the listener. Everyone has a powerful testimony. Let's use them to level up to our best life with truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective.
Thank you, Isaac Mather, for the excellent new podcast intro. Check Isaac out on all socials and at isaacmathermusic.com. Things going on, but the big thing with the podcast is every week Matt never knows who's coming on until they come on. And, once every 3 weeks, Matt, you're real disappointed when it's just me, right?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but
no, thank you. I'm being too sarcastic. And tonight, the point was to have you on when we brought Tom in, but we had some internet issues, and Tom's here. So this is the first time we're doing a podcast. We don't even have a topic tonight. Like, I'm not trying to say it, the teacher in me is going crazy right now because I'm
Of course.
I don't have a topic. Like what do we talk about? But I think it's going to be okay.
It'll be all right. It'll be all right. It's sometimes these things are the ones that go the best. Sometimes.
Yeah. It's like those it's like those, when you're on vacation or whatever, and you don't have any plans, or it's a weekend and you don't have any plans, and all of a sudden, it turns into that one time, that the best day or whatever it is.
That's right.
Those things tend to happen.
That's right.
What have you been up to?
Oh boy, lots of stuff, man. Traveling the world everywhere.
Yeah.
And tons and tons of traveling for work and all that neat stuff. But
Is that normal for you to travel for work, or is this unique?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's normal. It's something over the course of 24 years you sort of get used to it. It's like brushing your teeth. You just, if they spin me around 3 times, I can't tell you what hotel room I'm in.
Yeah, I used to work for a company. I traveled probably 2 weeks a month, two business weeks, so call it 10 days, and which was a lot, for me compared to what I was used to and what I've done since. But I loved it because I got to see so much of the country on someone else's dime, right, and their expense account, and then but I can relate because I remember many times, waking up, hotel room, and going, okay, Cleveland, or Miami.
Where am I now? I just did that this morning.
I in fact, my wife and I we just flew to Atlanta last week, and we drove from Atlanta. It was a family thing. Drove my daughter's car out from Atlanta. We hit Louisville, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and then home. And one of those mornings, I did the same thing, and we were just was kind of reminiscing the same way with her, because this was before I'd met her, about that type of travel. But I loved it. What about you? I mean, is it something you like, or is it just
you know what? I look at it. I think I look at it a little bit differently. I look at it as so I'm not one. If I did the job that I'm in 10 years ago, I would have been miserable because, as you know, Paul, our kids were in a different space 10 years ago than they are right now, right? And as your career progresses, they say that every change requires a different version of you. And as your career progresses, or at least as mine has progressed, it's sort of allowed me to take on more things as time goes by. And now I'm in a space where travel is possible. Based on where we're at. We're both empty. We're empty nesters, obviously, so we get to travel. However, a lot of people who know me know that I travel a lot, and the general assumption with people who travel a lot is, wow, you must really like to travel a lot. And I would say that's partially true. I do like to travel a lot. I do like to experience different things, both personally and professionally. But I travel so much now, if you let it get to your head, it can really send you sideways. So I've sort of tried to reframe that in my mind as every single trip that I take, no matter if I hop on a plane or if I hop in a car, I sort of view it as a bunch of different mini adventures. And that's how I've framed it up in my head. So when you're away from home for a long time or for a period of time, which is what my job requires of me now, it doesn't make it feel so bad in the moment, right? I'm on a new adventure. So if I'm sitting on a plane, last week I was sitting on a plane going to a place that I haven't been to a lot. And when you kind of get all stuck in your feelings about being away from home, you reframe that and you're like, all right, look, I'm on a brand new adventure. What is it that I can take from this? It's that mindset that we've talked about in the past. You know, what good can come of it? Because something good can come of every single thing that occurs to you.
Yeah, and Paul and I, we talk about adventure all the time, don't we, Paul? And that, you know, life is
I
adventure.
was waiting when he said adventure. I knew you were going to ask a question, so I'm
Well,
quiet right now. No, but it's 100%. That's the whole point.
Hey, Tom, you said something too that reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend of mine who also is a politician and been in government and that kind of thing, and we were debating a variety of different things, school systems, business, government's role in a number of these things, and you know, although we see eye to eye on a lot of things, we don't on others, and that's the fun of it, right? You know,
right.
Sit there, have a discussion, you all agree on the same thing. Well, you know, that only lasts so
That's
long.
boring.
So
that's boring. Nobody wants that.
no, nobody wants that. But one of the things that came up in that discussion, and you just mentioned it, you know, you said your new job and your new job requires you a new thing, and you have to I forget the word you used, but basically adjust and become a new person in many ways. And my criticism to him about certain jobs, and we were talking about a particular government job in this particular instance was, and there were other people in the room, and the other people in the room were business people and people part of other types of organizations. And I went around the room and I said, each one of them, how many of you your job is the same today as it was 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And the only person whose jobs were like that were people in the kind of this government system.
Yeah.
And they're kind of, it was just interesting because I've had to reinvent myself. I've lost count, you know, and guess what? I'm not done, you know, and I hope I never am. And we got talking about that, how interesting that is. And I mean, do you think that's normal? Reinventing yourself. A lot of people look at it as a negative, like, why should I have to reinvent myself? I got my education. I shouldn't have to change. I mean, how do you view that?
Well, I view it, I think there's two ways to look at that. I think some people are just afraid of change. They don't want change. They don't, regardless of whether it's going to be good or bad, they're just afraid of it. They don't like it. And, you know, there's this, it's become cliche to say that, you know, things are always changing. If there's one constant, it's change. But it's absolutely true. But there's two ways in my mind that I sort of compartmentalize that. There's folks that are afraid of change, and then there's folks that just have never had to change. Like, if you're, you know, I live in a very dynamic world from a professional standpoint, and we have to change all the time. But I think you have to look at it from somebody else's point of view, and it all depends on the space that you're in. I mean, listen, change happens all the time in education, Paul. Newsflash for you, right? You see it all. You see it.
It's supposed to. Yes.
It's constant. But you can't, looking at it from somebody else's perspective helps you adjust to that change better, because they're going through the same change as you are. So, you know, the team that I lead right now, we're all going through changes together. We're all going through the same change at the same time. So how horrible would it be if I just looked in a mirror and looked at myself alone and said, oh my gosh, how am I going to deal with this change? I can look at them, understand that they're going through the very same type of changes that I'm going through. So how can I help make this as easy as possible for them? How can I make this the situation where they learn as much as they can possibly learn from this? Because guess what? that also helps me learn a lot, right? It's all about helping other people through change. But change doesn't have to be this seismic shift in the earth for people. Change can be small, it can be big. In the professional world, in the world that we live in, change can sometimes be really, really big. It's just like a Machiavellian type change sometimes. So we get kind of used to that. But I would argue that it's actually the small changes that you make to yourself and to your mindset along the way that allow you to deal with the bigger changes. So now change happens for me all the time. And I have to tell you, I don't even think about it anymore. Change happens without me even realizing that change is happening. And that's why I go back to what I just said. Every single change, it doesn't matter how small it is or how large it is, it requires a different version of you. And I think the people that really sort of embrace that mindset are the ones that really they do better in the long run, because they understand that where they are today is where they are today. That's it.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
It's amazing. When you were saying all this, I came up with a phrase, because I write stuff down, and
yeah.
Tom, what we've evolved to is we don't even know what the name of the podcast is going to be until it's done.
Love it.
And
perfect.
I came up with surprise yourself. Like at the end of the day, you should, when you look back, you should surprise yourself at where you are today. Right?
Yeah.
The things I do, I know both of you very personally. So it's like the stuff you're doing. I knew you, Matt. I've known you since you were a teenager. What's that?
Before
500 years ago. And and I know Tom when our kids were just in middle school, and I see what's happening today, and we couldn't have planned this.
No way.
But your quote, every change requires a different version of you. I wrote that down.
Yep.
I think that's what you just keep compounding it. And it's amazing what happens.
And can I tell you, Paul, first of all, I'm not smart enough to come up with a phrase like that by myself. Let me be very clear about that. And this won't surprise you one bit. You know that I listen to a lot of Inky Johnson stuff, and I originally got that mindset from Inky Johnson. So let me tell you where I got that from. Paul, let me take you all the way back to 2015. That was right around the time, actually not right around the time, I can show you the sticker over here, February 11th of 2015. That's when I had back surgery. Pretty serious back surgery. And I'll never forget, this nurse asked me if I knew who Inky Johnson was. And I said, I didn't. In fact, being a sports fan, I'm kind of ashamed that I didn't know who Inky Johnson was, to be perfectly honest with you. And as they were prepping me for surgery, she had me watch his video. It was just like a 10, 12-minute version of his story. And there's longer versions, trust me, but it was a short version of his story. And one of the things that he talked about was that every single change requires a different version of you. And that really got me thinking. It really set my mind. It changed the way that I thought about what I was going through. So guess what? When you go through anything traumatic, whether it be a back surgery, whether it be a family event, whether it be some sort of seismic shift in the direction of where you're going personally or professionally, it really does require a different version of you. It requires you to think about things differently. So my mindset, as soon as I woke up, whenever it was that I woke up from whatever they did to me, my mindset was, okay, hold on a second. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure something like this never happens to me again. It shifted the way that I think, and it's remained constant over the course of time. The way that I think about that today is the exact same way I thought about that back in 2015. So I maintained that mindset, maintained that change in the way that I've sort of framed it up for myself, to make sure, or at least do everything in my power, that something like that doesn't happen again. But if you flip that around, let's say something wonderful happens to you, whether it's I don't know, a promotion at work or something as simple as that. I say simple, that can be huge for a lot of people, right? I think you can reframe something like that because that's something good that happened to you. Okay, so what did you do to make that something good happen to you? Well, okay, if I did this and something really good happened to me, if I thought about something this way and something really good happened to me because of that, well, why wouldn't I just try and replicate that over time to make something else good happen to me? So it goes both ways. It doesn't matter if something good or bad or challenging happens to you. It's just the way that you constantly think about things. So what it does for you, no matter, I mean, we all have good days and bad days, right? It happens all the time. What that does for you, it puts you in a constant state of acceptance. At least it does for me. It's a constant state of acceptance. Look, this was a really crappy thing that happened to me, but what can I learn from it? Or this is a great thing that happened to me. What can I do? How can I copy that to make good things continue to happen to me if I'm ever in those types of situations again? So it sort of puts you in this constant growth mindset over time that helps you get through anything, whether it be good or bad.
Paul, I was waiting for your follow-up on that.
No, I was waiting for you. That might be the first time in 85 episodes that we weren't fighting for time.
I'm really comfortable with awkward silence. That's why I didn't say anything. I'm really comfortable.
I thought of a couple things in what you're saying. Number one, I'm in complete agreement that we're constantly looking at things are always evolving in our lives. And what you said something key there, Tom. You said you're in a state of acceptance, right? When things are either good, bad, whatever. Right. I accept it because these things happen, and now your anxiety's lessened, right? You're not anxious because of a uncomfortable, let's call it, situation. It's
right.
These things happen, and who am I? When you're talking about we've got to change who we are. My wife and I have different versions of ourselves. My wife and I have a baby coming. Now that's a great thing in our lives, right? But is that going to require me to be a different person than I am today? The answer is yes. The answer is I'm going to have to adjust myself, and that way of thinking and that way of accepting it, I think, only puts me in a better place to succeed and a better place to look forward to my future and that I'm in control of it. So I'm very. You say this, you talk like this a lot, Tom, and it's very important, and I appreciate that you do it because not enough people do. You talk about mindset and where you put yourself, where you take control with yourself and where you put yourself, and how that helps you with whatever situation or scenario you're in. And I'm not sure that's discussed enough, that we have the ability. I've said this so many times to the young people, especially, when you believe it up here, when you convince yourself, you really got to believe it, though. You can't lie about it. You can't keep saying it's part of the belief, but you got to really, when you do it, I always say it's game over. You got it. Like nothing will stop you. It doesn't mean it's going to happen when you want it to. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen how you want it to. But I truly believe you'll make it happen. But it's because you did it up here, and you talk in that way a lot, Tom, and I appreciate that. But let me switch gears a little bit on here. We're talking about major changes, right? And something that Paul and I talked about today. We've touched on briefly, and I think maybe in your world, Tom, this is going to be, in a lot of people's worlds, this is going to be a potential major shakeup. Is AI? How's AI? How are you looking at that in your professional world, friend or foe? And what do you, just in general? I mean, I'm very interested in your take on that.
Oh, friend. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, friend. Listen, the more the more data that I can have to make the best possible decisions that I can make, I'm the better. I mean, I invite all of that. Are you kidding me? I view AI, and by the way, either personally or professionally, it really doesn't matter which way I'm looking at this.
Okay.
I kind of view it. I kind of view it as an extra teammate. I really do. Because listen, the more data that you can get from any source that you can get data from, the better off you're going to be. Whether that's a people resource or an artificial intelligence resource. It really doesn't make any difference at all. In my mind, the more data that I can have to make the very best possible decisions that I can make, the better off we all are. I mean, again, I think this is, I know you said you were shifting gears, but this is really the same conversation. It's the exact same it's the exact same conversation. Because look, here's the analogy that I use. In fact, I say this all the time. Paul, I say this when I come and talk to your folks. I say this regardless of what school district it is out there that I go talk to. Inevitably, when you talk to high school kids or kids that are in school, one of the big topics that ends up coming up is social media, right? Happens all the time. Telephones, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or sorry, am I allowed to say that anymore? I think it's X. Now, I don't know if I'm allowed to say Twitter anymore.
X.
Don't be telling anybody on me. But whatever that thing is, it all comes up in conversation. And here's what I always tell people, and this speaks to that AI topic that you brought up. Let me be real clear about this. I am not the get off your lawn kind of guy. I am not that guy. I certainly walk through the pitfalls of social media where they can trip up from social media, but I'm not the person that says, oh my gosh, you should be using your phone less. You should be off of social media less. You should do all that. I'm just the guy that says, listen, you need to make the very best decisions that you can possibly make. And you really need to think about what you're doing before you hit the send button. But here's the deal. Just like AI, guess what, guys? Social media isn't going away. It's not going away. It's going to, in fact, I would argue that it's exactly the opposite of that. It's probably going to become even more prevalent over the course of time and impact even more people's lives over the course of time. So if we embrace that the right way, just like if we embrace AI the right way, it can benefit all of us. It can benefit all of us. I tell that to people all the time. Listen, when I'm sitting in front of people having a conversation, you can tell how prepared they are. And one of the ways that they get prepared is by embracing the powerful, powerful things that can come from using social media. But at the same time, one bad decision using social media, and you really put yourself in a hard spot. You really do. But it's not going away. Just like AI is not going away. But I literally view it. I know I said this before, but I mean this wholeheartedly. I view it as an additional teammate standing next to me, giving me really good information that I can use to either make decisions myself or help other people make the best decisions for them.
The AI, I listened to a podcast the other day. I mean, I do a lot of financial simulations and hypotheticals for people, and we have all this software, and it's AI related, and we can go back not hundreds of years but 100 years and do charts and graphs of things, what's happening, and we can hypothetically guess what's going to happen in the future. But at the end of the day, right now, all AI does is talk. It has influence on what we've done. Like AI can't really predict anything. So there's still so much play for people to to use AI. Well, we always say you learn from the past, you learn from your history. AI is incredible at that, but at the end of the day, it's still the innovators, it's still the entrepreneurs, it's still the people like moving forward. And there's going to be people that say there's going to be people that tell AI that you I don't even know, like, we're not going to do that. We're going to go this way. And no, but AI says this, but AI is it's just a reflection of our past. Sorry,
we say all the time. It's not. It's not what you say. It's how you say it.
Right.
It's not the tool. It's how you use it that ultimately determines if it does good or bad.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, that's just the way that I view things. I mean, the more things that we can use that can help us make decisions, I think the better off we're going to be. Not, mind you, I didn't say make decisions for us. That's not what I said. I said the more information and the more tools that we can use to help us to make as informed of a decision as possible, I think the better off we all are.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, and I definitely wanted to get your thoughts on it, and I'm trying to learn more and more about it, because every time I turn around, it's right in my face. Meaning the topic, and I know there's a lot of difference of opinions on the spectrum. From it's going to enslave us to it's it's got a long way to go before it's gonna have a major impact on it. And what I think about more than what I only think about, I should say, is a job market and how it'll affect different types of jobs and that type of thing. And I I don't have any control over it. I just find it to be fascinating.
Matt, Tom, I think I said it in another podcast, but Matt, we do podcasts every week and we come across millions of viewers. I'm being a little sarcastic right now, but I came across an article / video. AI, ironically, is taking jobs away from the white collar people. It's not taking jobs away from the blue collar people. And everybody thought AI, robotics, the working class isn't going to have jobs. More than anything now, we need an influx of people in the trades. We need an influx of people doing things.
Absolutely.
AI, you could argue, is taking away the middle class jobs and upper management jobs. Like, why do we need those people? We need people. You're a business owner, Tom. You're part of a big corporation. Why do we need people that can just like give us policy? We need people like taking action and doing things.
When my HVAC unit goes down, I don't need AI. I need someone who can come in,
but it's
get
true.
Their hands dirty and fix it.
A lot of money in that still.
Oh, oh, hey, the opportunities in those industries are immense, and I'm sure you guys, maybe you don't agree. I don't know, but I love to encourage people to get in those different types of trades and such. And there's a lot of opportunity there. They're great jobs. And, even the entrepreneurial spirit that I have in me, I always say you don't have to go work for someone. You can have your own business. Doesn't have to be day one, but you can have your own business. You can have 10 people working for you at some point. And, there's all sorts of opportunity in there. And, I mean, real opportunity, because, I have to get things fixed a lot. It just with the properties I own and the businesses and that kind of thing. And, you feel pretty stuck at this point. There's not a lot of people doing a lot of this work. So tremendous opportunity out there. And I think it's exciting time for people who want to get into it.
Yeah. We're ranting a little, but the welder, the HVAC person, the excavator, the carpenter, like not only can
the power washer,
not only can they have a job that might even be union backed. I mean, that's a whole nother topic, of course. But the people I know that do that, the side hustles are the ceiling on what they can do on the side if they want to put hours in. Like if all of a sudden the public schools shut down, I would survive and I would reinvent myself, but I would struggle.
Right.
These guys, like if all of a sudden there's no union for welders, a welder's going to go make probably more money than they would for the union because all of a sudden there's no welders.
Yeah.
And the side hustle potential, and I don't even know if we like the word side hustle. We just say it because like there's no ceiling on their skill level, I guess is what I'm saying.
That's right. That's absolutely right. In fact, to your point, I'll never forget. So every spring and every fall, we have our HVAC people come in and check our furnace and check our air conditioner. And the last time we did it, the same guy shows up every time. Every time it's the same. It's the exact same person. So I asked him, I'm like, you're not replacing my furnace or anything. You're just like literally checking it. Why is it you all the time? And he said to me, because there's nobody else to do it. We're having a very difficult time finding people in the trades that want to do this kind of stuff or that get trained on doing this kind of stuff. And it was really an aha moment for me because it just shows you that a lot of these big companies that we know out there that have been doing these things for a long time, if they're not careful, their future existence could be challenged.
Well, I think what ultimately will happen is we need the service. Like I don't know about you, but I need air conditioning in the summer and I need heat in the winter. And I think most of us are like that. What'll happen is we're going to end up paying through the nose because these companies are going to go, hey, look, I got to hire people, and to attract them to this business, they're starting out at $100,000 a year, and that's coming out of you, the customer, because you decided to send your children off to college, to get a degree in whatever, and now get your checkbooks out, guys, because and hey, that's the market system. Nothing wrong. I wholeheartedly am fine with it. That's what. And if you have a problem with that, my advice to you would be go take some classes. You become the person who can do it, and you can make all the money. And those opportunities exist. I tell people before, same kind of topic. Younger people, I go, if you want to make $100,000 in a year, go buy a paintbrush and set up a website in a little pickup truck and be reliable and accountable. And I guarantee you'll clear six figures in 1 year. I guarantee it, as long as you get out of bed. So same kind of thing. The demand is there. The supply is not. Prices go way up, and that's where we're headed. So.
It's funny that you say, Matt, it's so funny that you say that. So we have a guy, we had our deck replaced a couple of years ago. And we ended up actually becoming pretty good friends with the guy that did the deck. And he said, he said, why did you let me do your deck? I mean, you mentioned when we first met that you were calling a bunch of different places just to get a bunch of different estimates. And I said to him, you were the one that answered the phone. And I'm telling you, guys, it was that simple. He's the one that answered the phone. The other people that we called, I had to leave messages for them and they never got back to me.
Yep.
He's the person that answered the phone. We invited him to come over and give us an estimate. We got to know the guy a little bit better, found out that we all travel in the same circles around here, right? So we all knew people who knew one another. And guess what? He's the one we had to do the job. And then guess what happened? As soon as he did my deck, he went to my neighbors,
yeah,
and did their deck. And then he went to the person down the street and did their deck. And then he went to my neighbor's daughter's house and worked on stuff for her. See, that's how this stuff works. If I have one bit of advice to give anybody, if you want to set yourself apart from I don't know, 80% of the people that are out there. Just answer your phone when it rings.
Tom, that's so funny. I've been saying to my daughter since she was I don't know how old, young. I use the same percentage. I don't know why you used 80, Tom, and I don't know why I use 80. But I say if you want to be better, if you want to stand out from 80% of your peers, just show up. And that's answering your phone, right? Just answer your phone. Just show up. And when I mean show up, I mean show up like ready, engage. I'm here mentally. You know, and that will get you so far. Just answering your phone, just showing up. And those stories are not unique, right? I mean, you've experienced them, Paul. You have, I have. I mean, just show up, just answer your phone, and boy, the opportunities that will thrust themselves at you will blow your mind.
I always say, just be the first to engage. Paul, I say this to your class when I come in and talk to them. Have a be first mentality. That doesn't mean you're the first one to talk. That doesn't mean you're the first one to speak. Be the first to be engaged. Be the first one to be present. Be the first one to make eye contact with somebody who matters to you. The be first mentality has nothing to do with being the loudest in the room. It has nothing to do with the one that needs to make sure everybody knows you're there. The be first in fact, I would argue, Paul, if you really, really pay attention to the kids as they walk through your class during the course of the year, you'll be able to point out the be first people, because you know that they're engaged as soon as they walk in the room. But that's a decision.
I can I mean, when you're saying that, I could already list 4 or 5 kids that just hit that. But I want to jump back. I mean, I put the be first mentality. That might be the name of that pot. That might be the name of this episode.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize this till we were talking, that the best benefit of being a teacher isn't the pension. It's not the summers off. I mean, it's not the good life that Matt talks about all the time about being a teacher, It's amazing. Anytime I need something, whether it's heating, plumbing, deck work, siding, I throw out, I've built a network as a teacher. It's amazing the kids that come flocking in. And
incredible.
But I joke about it for that reason, because I never shortchange him. I mean, I might probably pay him more than what I would pay somebody else, but I never, like, there's no waiting period. Like when Mr. Richmond wants something done on his house, man, it's good to go. Like, because I know, like, in a business, Matt, that's a real issue. Like the timing, the waiting to get something done.
No question.
And it's just amazing that when you build a relationship with people, they just want to jump to help you. And the money, like, I don't want to say the values first, the money second. That stuff always seems to work out. And if the rest of the world would go about that mentality, and that's why I'm coming back to the be first mentality, everything would be all right.
Tom, I want to expand. I want you to expand on that a little bit. So when you think of that in a group, whether it's students or younger students, older adults, or whatever, what are some things that you would say to a group of students who, whatever age, be first, be engaged? What does that look like? I mean, what does that look like to me as the student? Like, you said, make eye contact.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah. Most of it has absolutely nothing to do with anything that comes out of your mouth. Okay. Most of it has nothing to do with any of that. So here's what I tell people all the time in the class. I can tell you how a conversation is going to go with somebody just by the way they walk in the room. Just by the way, listen, we all leave a perception on people. It doesn't matter what you think about it. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it. When you walk into a room, you immediately make a perception. You develop a perception of the people who are in the room, and then the people who are in the room develop a perception of you. And guess what? At that particular moment, it's right because it's theirs. It's yours. It's your perception. And over time, that perception can change based on your interaction with people. It can either get better or it can get worse, depending on the level of value that you bring people. But we call them the nonverbals. It's how you walk in a room. If you walk into a room, shoulders back, head up, making eye contact with people, that leaves a different perception on somebody as opposed to walking into a room, and now y'all have seen this, walking into a room with your shoulders slouched, your head down, and you walk straight to your desk and you sit down. Two totally different perceptions. And whether you want to believe it or not, as a teacher, you treat those two people different.
Yeah.
You just do. Do you know why you treat those two people different? Because you're a human being. That's why you treat those two people different. We tend to treat people much, much differently when they're engaged in a conversation or engage in whatever it is that you're sort of selling to them than people who don't. So the number one thing that I always, here's the analogy that I use when I walk into a, first of all, whenever I go someplace, I get there early and I get to the classroom early and I literally watch every kid as they walk through the room. And I tell them this, when you walked in the room, you saw me sitting up there. And at some point, your eyes found mine and you said to yourself, uh-oh, stranger danger. There's some dude in here that's not normally here. He shouldn't be here. What's going on? That's exactly what happens. And guess what you do to me? You have no control over it. You develop the perception of me. The human brain is a remarkable tool. The human brain develops 7 perception every 11 seconds. So think about that for a second. So you develop the perception of me and you have no control over it. None. Now, hopefully I'll be able to change that perception over the course of time. But let's flip that coin around. As I was sitting up here in the front of this room, and each one of you walked into this room, guess what I did to you?
Same thing.
I did the same thing. And then this is, you should see the kids' eyes when I do this. I literally look like I pick like the first 10 people in there. And I literally say, I have a perception of you. I now have a perception of you. I have a perception of you. And I literally go right down the line. And you should see their eyes. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So here's what I tell them. Someday, sometime soon, you're going to get up. You're going to put your best clothes on. You're going to get in the car. And you're going to drive to your very first real deal job interview. I mean, like a career kind of interview, right? And you're going to get there and you're going to walk in the room and you're going to see the person or the people who are interviewing you. Guess what you're going to do to them? You're going to develop a perception of them. Guess what they're going to do to you? And they say, oh, the same thing. And then I say, whose perception matters more? It's not yours.
Clearly theirs.
Right. And you should see their eyes when we have this conversation in the classroom, because it's like a light bulb moment for people. It really is, because, oh my gosh, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that someone's kind of watching everything that I do?
Yep.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you.
Tom, I mean, I've watched it. You come to my class early and you sit there and all the kids file in, and
yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And at the end of the day, it doesn't mean you can't change that perception, but it puts you ahead of the game or it puts you behind the game right off the bat. Now, it's like being 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 5 or 1st and 20 with a holding call, like in football. That's like now you got to adjust because you're ahead or behind in the game. And the kids do it, and it's amazing. And it's a very powerful lesson.
It is. It's fun to watch. It's really fun to watch. But I think a lot of things are learned in the process, though. I mean, we talk about this, Paul, all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it be storytelling, the power of storytelling, the power of perception, the power of the impressions that you leave on people, the power of the opinions that you leave on folks. I mean, it's such a wonderful conversation because, you know, the goal from my perspective is just like everybody that comes into your classroom, Paul, we talk about this all the time. The goal is to give people sort of a real life look into what kind of happens out there. And they don't get enough of that, certainly.
Absolutely. You know, as we wrap up this, Matt, we've never done this before. So I want to ask our guest, what did we talk about tonight? What was our topic? Because you're one of the first, like, right, Matt, when you come on, I have a topic. When the guest comes on, I have a topic. We didn't have a topic tonight. And I've got it written down. I already know.
Tom's pretty versatile. You know, we can go into a lot of things, which is I compliment. It's a you know, I love it. That's why it's so fun.
So Paul, can I give you my perspective on what we talked about tonight?
100%.
I kind of think it's simple. I think we just spent 50 minutes talking about serving others.
Ooh.
That's really what I believe we've done. It's serving others. You know, there's a lot of different thoughts out there regarding servant leadership. And I truly believe that servant leadership should be a course that's taught in school. I've taken it several times. There's a great book called Servant Leadership, or The Servant Leader, I believe it is. And I truly believe that's what we've talked about here today. If you ever get stuck, if you're ever in a spot where you're just not feeling right, whether you're burned out or whether you're just having a bad day, there's one surefire way to change your mindset. And that's to go help somebody else. If you go help somebody else, it'll all come back around to you. And it can never be about you. We're all leaders. I don't care what your name is. I don't care where you work. I don't care what your title is. I don't even care what age you are. We're all leaders. All of us. Every one of us. Someone's always watching us. I tell people in the class, in fact, you've probably heard me tell this as well, Paul. You never know who's watching you. I guarantee you that there is somebody watching you all the time who looks up to you. Right? So what are you going to do to serve that person? And when we engage with those other people, so a mentor of mine just told me something the other day that literally made me stop in my tracks. It really made me stop and really, really think about things. He said, one of the biggest mistakes that we make when we meet somebody new who we haven't met before, one of the biggest mistakes that we make is thinking that the place we met them at is where they've always been. And I think in this person's mind, thinking that way really takes you out of your own shoes. And it allows you to look at things and look at the perspectives of other people from where they're at. Because guess what? They have a story, just like you have a story. They have a story about how they got there. And boy, oh boy, if we can just leave other people just a tiny bit better than they were when we got there, we're truly changing the world. I really, really believe that.
You know, when you said that, I wrote it down. The place we meet them is where we've always thought they've been. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I look at it differently. Like when we meet people, if you have a chance, like you're coming in at this angle, you have a chance to deflect them to another angle. And it can be good or bad. And that's the way I look at it. Every time we meet people, like I love to travel. We all love to travel. You know, we started the podcast with that. I just talk to somebody randomly and, we exchange what we exchange. And I may never talk to them again, but at the end of the day, I may have deflected them off to a whole nother path they haven't seen. I mean, I hope it's not. I hope
Yeah.
it's not a path that they don't want to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah. God
Well,
bless.
people
that
ask me that all the time. So, Paul, I get this question. I don't know if I've ever told you this. So, I don't know how many years I've been coming to your class or how many years I've been doing all this stuff. But it's been
a hundred.
been
But go ahead. Yeah.
it's been a super long time. It's been a super
Yeah.
long time, and
Yeah.
people ask me, well, why do you do that? And this conversation, it's to serve other people. It's to give people just one person's perspective on things, and it's just one person's perspective on things. That's really all that it is. And I make sure that I tell folks that every time we engage, it's just my perspective. Hopefully the next person in here will give you a different perspective. And then guess what you're doing?
Yep.
It's sort of like AI. Guess what's happening?
Yeah.
Gathering
It's
data,
allowing
right?
you to collect more data
Amen.
and more data and more data,
Yeah.
so you can make a decision on what hit you the hardest. And that's the beauty of it, man. It really is. It's just serving other people. It is the things that I do for you guys and the things that I do for the 5 other school districts that I do them for. They are literally, it's one of those things that gets me up in the morning. I mean, I literally take the day off of work. I take the day off and I spend almost an entire day. Probably I added them up last year. I think I took 12 days off of work last year just to hang out in classrooms. And I think it's because nobody ever did that for us.
Amen.
Mm.
And man, do I wish they did. Holy cow. Maybe I would have, maybe something different would have happened to some of us along the way, you know?
Well,
Mhm.
I'm super excited because I have everything down for this episode. I didn't know it was
Perfect.
going to happen, but episode 120, you're coming back. You're one of our regulars. I already wrote it
in.
down.
Paul,
I'm in.
why 120? What? Why 120?
Well, I mean, if it's like when you're at a restaurant, Matt, and they say 50 minutes till your table's ready, and 30 minutes your table's
That's
ready.
right. That's right.
If
That's right.
if he's 110, am I going to be like, no, Tom's
I
going to
thought
be
I
like,
missed.
I
I thought
can't
I
do it.
missed something. I thought I missed something.
No,
earlier.
hey,
Like, I was
listen.
like,
Let's be. Wait a minute, Paul. Let's just be real with everybody. This is how this works. See. Guess what? Friends can reach out to each other anytime they want to reach out to each other. Let's just tell everybody how this goes. 2
Yeah.
nights ago, my phone buzzes. It's sitting on my dining room table. 2 nights ago, my phone buzzes, and all it says is, "Hey, podcast tomorrow night, 8 p.m." with a question mark. Like,
beautiful.
can you
Amen.
give me a night, for God's sakes? I mean,
Hey, Tom, episode 100 is 15 weeks away.
there we go.
And well, we don't want to give too much away, but Matt and I, we're doing it in person with an audience. We'd like you to be there.
Oh, I am there.
Yeah, Tom, you'd be perfect to be there.
In person with an audience. Oh,
Well,
sign
and
me
I don't,
up, man.
I mean, I know we're on Spotify. We're like, I think we're top 5 behind Joe Rogan. I'll have to look at the stats.
You're better than Joe Rogan. You're better than
But
Joe Rogan.
but on YouTube tonight, I've been getting some emails from YouTube that we have enough views and subscribers now that they want to start talking about monetizing us. And I'm like, well, listen, I don't know if we want YouTube right now. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, talk to our agent, right?
Yeah, I said, wait till
Oh.
Tom Casey comes on in person. That's
I'm gonna
that's
be.
gonna be
You know
a
what?
game.
We're gonna get to a day when that text that I actually get is from somebody else who's representing the two of you.
Never.
asking you to be
Never.
on the podcast.
Paul won't give you his number anymore.
Yeah.
No,
I know where this is going.
You know what's funny? I listen to a lot of podcasts, and do you believe, like Joe Rogan, he reaches out to his guests. He doesn't have someone else do it. Isn't
That's
that
good.
crazy?
That's great.
And that's
great.
Matt's not going to do it because Matt never knows who our guests are.
That's what
But
makes
that's
it
kind
fun,
of,
though.
It does.
you know what? Like, if you would have told me 3 years ago, we're going to have a podcast where, all right, Matt, you're a successful guy. You're not going to know who's coming on, and we're not going to know how long we're going to talk for. And we're not even going to know what we're going to talk about. and he's going to be like, I'm all in. Like that's the greatest thing ever.
You know what I
And
love
we-
about this most? This is Paul. This language you'll understand. This is Toastmasters right here, man.
Yeah.
That's exact. And so this is one take. There's no. I mean, you only hit the record button one time, I think, since we started this, right?
That's all we ever do.
This is one take. That's Toastmasters live, and you do a live event. That's really Toastmasters.
Yeah.
In fact, and this will blow everybody's mind. You didn't have any idea what we were going to talk about here. Well,
No.
what if you did a live event and you had no idea?
Well, that's what we're doing. We don't care.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
And we went over what we normally go over tonight. Like
That's perfect. Well,
we try to do 45 minutes because we're just us. Matt, final thoughts?
No, Tom, it's always great. It's always great seeing it. It really is. And
Thanks, man.
when I saw you, I was like, I know we're gonna have an interesting conversation, and I that's what, going back to this. That's why we do it. That's why we've always wanted to do it. I mean, that's been the motive from day one. And Paul's done a great. And Paul, I'll give you a compliment here. Paul's done a really, really great job getting people on and interesting people and
He sure has. I've listened to every one of them.
I mean,
Oh,
connect
thank you.
with people, and we get these guests on, and and then we get people sending us their agents are sending us their book reviews, and then I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And it's so neat, and Paul and I talk about this usually when the camera's off. We hang up and we go, I'm so jazzed up I can't even sleep because these conversations are just they're inspiring, and and to think that we can have this and do this, it's just so cool. It's just so rewarding, and it's something that, as far as I'm concerned, there's no end in sight to. So we have a good time with it. It's thrilled to have you,
And
a part of it.
you're serving others by doing this too, because you don't know somebody out there.
agree.
You don't know who it is.
Thank
Somebody
you.
out there is going to hear something in not just this podcast, but any podcast that you guys
Yep.
have done that's really going to strike a chord with them, and it's going to be something that they embrace. So you guys,
Yep.
are serving.
Well, and to be fair, we've had guests on and said some things that have struck a chord with me, and I'm sure with you too,
Sure.
Paul, that I've went, boom, aha moment, as you put it earlier, whatever. So, what we selfishly gain out of this from that perspective has been, immeasurable. So you're right. You're absolutely right.
Fun stuff, man. Fun
At the
stuff.
end of the day, I have a hate mail counter. When we have more hate mail than we have good mail, I know we've arrived, and we're not there yet.
There you go. Hey, and I just want for the record, Paul, I just want you to know that I've gone an entire podcast without one time saying chop wood, carry water. Not one time have I
You
said
just said it.
that.
All right, I got to leave in 2 minutes. But Matt, we were.
I
Just
read
having,
that, Tom, by the way. I read that after the last time you were on. So thank you. It was really good.
So we were just. I'm gonna pull up the text today because Matt's just like, right, Matt. What book should I listen to for Audible? Because you're still you're a brick and mortar guy. Like you like to read your books, but you're buying into Audible, right?
I do both. I'm doing both.
And I'm talking about books today, and I mean, I don't know. I'm sending this book and that book and that book. I almost text him chop wood, carry water because I was just looking in my library and I
Yep.
forgot he read it. But you know what? Chop
Good
wood,
stuff.
carry water.
Amen.
I think that's the way we end it. Hey, thanks, Tom.
You
Tom,
bet.
thank you.